what do you think, Darren? Will other unions end their strikes? We've got this junior doctors' 5-day strike coming up next month.
Yeah, indeed. And we have to remember why this has come to an end is in the fact that the Royal College of Nurses' mandate for strike action had run out. They, of course, unlike some other NHS unions, had rejected that pay offer from the government of a 5% pay rise this year and a £1,600 bonus for last year, saying that that simply wasn't enough. It was rejected by those very members who then decided not to turn out and vote in a second round of industrial action. Not enough, as you've rightly pointed out, only 43%. The threshold legally is set at 50%. That is something the government introduced in legislation back in 2016, though a majority, the vast majority of those that did vote did want to see further strike action, but clearly, as I say, that threshold was not met. So where does this go next? Well, frankly, I think the Royal College of Nurses are potentially going to have to accept that pay offer that the government put on the table, that the other unions have accepted. I mean, in some ways, they've already accepted it because it's gone onto people's wage packets in the last month or so. As you said, the Royal Colleges of Nursing's leader, Pat Cullen, said this news is very disappointing, though the fight will continue. It's difficult to see how that fight will continue, and clearly this is good news for the government, not least of all because there was an awful lot of public sympathy for nurses, though many will be just disappointed, as I say, by the fact that they may not be seeing as large a pay rise as they would like. The government, the Department of Health, saying that they hugely valued the work of nurses, welcomed the end of the dispute. But as you say, this is not the end necessarily of all strike action, because junior doctors are due to walk out. They're demanding quite a substantial pay rise. Prime Minister yesterday seemed to suggest that he's not prepared to cave in on that. We've also got other unions, for example, the rail workers still out in strike as well. So industrial action is far from over, though today's news clearly welcome news for the Prime Minister. He's not had much of that recently.
But a telling phrase from the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay: I hope other unions recognise it's time to end their strikes. I mean, will it be that the government is now encouraged in what they may be seen as a, not divide and rule maybe, but just sort of hang tough approach, that maybe if they stick it out, they will win in the end?
Yeah, indeed. I think this has been the government's approach throughout. I mean, we have to remember the rail unions have been involved in dispute now for the last year or so. I mean, I think there is a calculation saying that drivers don't get paid or train operators don't get paid when they don't go into work on strike days. I mean, that is not necessarily sustainable for those employees over a prolonged period of time. The election is still probably at least a year away. Do the government think they can sit back and hope that these disputes will come to an end kind of naturally, if you like? Yes, I think that will. Today's announcement will give further credence to that. But in the end, you know, the government argue this is about inflation. It's about trying to not fuel inflation, about trying not to take on more debt, though there's little indication that public sector pay is a major driver of inflation. Has this been damaging for the government? It has been, but is this, as I say, a chink of light in what's been a pretty difficult couple of weeks economically for the government? You bet it is.
Darren, thanks very much indeed for that. More, of course, reaction as we get it.